So, hey guys, Shawn Evans here, the host of the Sex and Suicide Podcast. What you're seeing Paulie doing, a lot of the questions we get are what we're doing with our phones at the start of the podcast. We're just sharing this so it reaches as many people as possible. 006941. Anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone that's supported us and followed us this last little while. We've had about a 6-month hiatus. And we'll get into why, but we just want to say thank you so much for your support. Whatever platform you use, whether it's iTunes, whether it's Instagram, the majority of our podcast and the popularity has come through Facebook. So regardless, there's going to be things on Facebook that you might not have access to if you're listening on iTunes or Instagram. It's a good idea to join our Facebook page and just follow what we're doing there, because a lot of our content is going to go through Facebook. We'll do our best to kind of expand outward from there. However, the reason we wanted to do a podcast today, we are in the middle of building an actual studio, which is taking some time. And because of that, we figured we'd go back. We'd use the last platform we did last year that worked so well. But we have in our hometown a university called Western University. And we found out that we lost 2 students to suicide during reading week, and we figured, you know what, we have to get on here and talk about it, because clearly the problem's getting worse. We thought originally when we started this podcast, we were going through the summer because we thought there's no support systems available for students that are suffering in the summertime. And back in school, we lost 2 in September, and we did a video. Or maybe it was a little later, October, November, but we lost 2 students at Western back in the fall. And we did a little, I don't think so. But we did a little video to reach out to UWO and Fanshawe, and a lot of students reached out, and we thank you for that. But clearly, there's still work to be done. So what do you guys have to say about the suicides that happened on campus last week? I mean, I know for myself, I'm heartbroken by it. What about you, Paulie?
I get, I definitely am heartbroken, for sure, because it's a heartbreaking thing, but I almost get a little bit, it's not angry at the system that this stuff's still going on, but it's the point that resources are now available, and we don't, normalize going to get resources, right? And people think that that's an option, that suicide is an option, and another option is going to get resources, or searching out resources, or calling someone, or knowing the resources around campus, and we have to put them in the newspaper. We have to put them all over the internet. We have to put them on bus stops. We have to put them on the sides of buses, so that people actually get it, that there is help out there, and you're not a bad person or a weak person for going and seeking those resources. And it is heartbreaking for sure. And there's 4,000 suicides every year in Canada. That's a terrible number.
So you think we need to be more active at promoting the crisis lines and the support and resources that are available to not just students but everyone?
Yeah, to everyone. I think the time's now, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I get that it is sad. It's incredibly sad, right? We can maybe stop a few more from happening in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we can just, normalize that you can go down to the crisis center during the day at UWO, and that works for some people, and that's wonderful. But for myself, for the suicide attempts that I've had, they've been at nighttime, because
right,
by myself, thinking about things in my place. And thank God there is a 24-hour crisis line. But if you're on campus, are you going to go to that crisis center because it's closed? You might say, well, that's not the option for me. See you later.
You might feel out of luck.
Yeah. So I just think we need to do stuff now.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah. So you think we're at the point where, I mean, and I agree with you. I think that we can all fucking agree that there's a mental health crisis.
Massive.
And suicide is becoming something that's just, it's not going away. No matter how often we're sweeping the shit under the rug, which really pisses me off, because we do. Like, I heard that the Western Gazette, for example, just said died suddenly. Like, we need to stop covering it up. Like, if people are dying because of suicide, say that. Like, we're pretty loud about it. We say, hey, we're trying to break the stigma here. But, like, I understand there's a family that wants to, it's kind of, you don't want, maybe, whether it's the parents that think maybe they failed or whatever, you don't really want to use the word suicide and have that legacy. But what about the people that could learn from this? What about the people that are still alive? Why aren't we saying, this person was in so much fucking pain that they felt that they needed to end their life as opposed to continuing and trying to find help. Like, I just feel like
that's the sad part.
It is, and it's just like, you know, the more that you sweep it under the rug and we pretend it's not happening, you're not helping anyone. You're living in a fucking fairyland, really, or fairy tale world. But this is happening, and we're at a point where I think we want to do something about it.
For sure.
I like the whole talking about the education part, and I saw somebody posted something on Facebook about like having it in schools. You know, like having a course, you know, like in high school or even in public schools where you start to learn about mental health, you learn about anxiety, how to deal with people with depression and stuff like that. So, and you get a credit for it.
That would be
amazing.
That
would be huge.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
that's what we
just
need to
coping
start,
skills, right? Like,
you know? We need to start there, because once kids get into college and university, it might be their first time away from home. And that fear of being a failure might scare them into calling their parents and saying, hey, listen, my course load's massive. And, I met a girl and she broke up with me, or, the stress of, going to Western University, being the best university in Canada that's on me. And they might not call home. Yeah. But if they take a course in school, they might just automatically do that. It might be habitual.
Or call somebody.
Or call someone or always have, around campus, have phone numbers, like in big block letters, if that's what it means, directing people to the way. But we should have that in high schools, I think, because once the time they get to university, they're fucked.
They're pretty much
right.
Or
not that they're fucked. They just don't know where those resources are, and they're in the university mentality, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's I don't know. It's bad to say. It's sad, or just like I wish I had. Like someone to teach me coping skills and communication skills, or even have that course in high school, because of my shyness and whatever else, like I had a difficult time like talking to my parents or talking to my dad, or and we had a pretty open like family relationship, but even still, like I wish, like looking back, like I think everybody could benefit from going through a rehab facility, whether or not they've taken drugs or not. Like they just teach you like life skills,
Well, maybe that's what needs to happen.
Such a huge difference.
I think that the school system is failing, really. I mean, the education system.
We have a curriculum from 1978, though. Let's get real.
Well, that's just it. I mean, technology is changing. We don't live in the same times anymore. And we're not teaching each other how to adapt or how to take care of each other. I mean, right now we're living in a society that expects instant gratification like that. We're bombarded with choices, and that can be overwhelming in itself. We're living in like a time where there's all these opportunities coming at us, and if you don't actually focus on what it is you want out of life will fucking grab you and drag you out wherever. And
you may not know.
No.
You may never know.
And that's anxiety producing just to think about.
Ever.
I mean, I like back in the day when we had grandparents growing up, they just kind of had their lives and they did what they had to do, and that was that. There wasn't much decision. Now it's like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to live? And all these choices, and no one wants to make the wrong choice, and you end up just kind of sitting still. Right.
But at the same time, there was like more communication back then too, right?
More real communication.
Yeah, like you called somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
You weren't hiding behind a screen, or
Even that was probably disconnect compared to like, when you had to actually go and visit someone and make that effort to go knock on the door.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, I used to call on my friends, right? And it was like running across the street. And at least if they weren't available, you'd kind of get someone to give you some FaceTime.
I had to ride my dirt bike to Buddy's farm and, for neighbors.
But back to the sort of the suicide topic, and we understand we're using Western University because it's here in our hometown. And I know that Fanshawe College, we have Matt behind us, who's a great help with video. He's a graduate from Fanshawe. And Fanshawe has the same issues, but every college and university is having these problems. And the thing that I still see though is driving by Western, you see them putting up multi-million-dollar buildings, right? Yeah. But like we understand, school is still a business. But what about taking care of your clients, which are the students, really, in a sense, right? Like
you're killing your tuition.
Yeah, and then you're burying them because you don't want to take responsibility.
Right. Well, just by not having accessible resources, or letting people know more that there is help, instead of building that great big building, which you're going to build anyways because you're the biggest university in Canada. Why not put the money from that building
room in there, or put like like something.
Or why not just
Fanshawe did that? Didn't they say they built?
They've got some areas. I mean, they've got some really cool seating chairs and shit like that. Like there are definitely schools that are following suit, but the people that really started focusing on sort of meditation or mindfulness are the Silicon Valley guys and the big companies like Google and Facebook and people that are like, okay, times are changing. This is how we adapt. Yet it's not happening in our schooling systems.
Yeah, we're behind.
At least not to the extent that it should be. And I mean, at least not from where I sit anyway. But I think going back to the Western students and the Fanshawe students and students here, we're always available through our Facebook page. I mean, even when we're not podcasting, you can reach us through email, sexandsuicidepodcast@gmail.com, or message us through the Facebook page. I'll be the one that gets it, but you can always, if you want to talk to Scott or you want to talk to Paulie, I can always direct your message. And whether we're live doing this shit or not, we're always available to chat or go for coffee. And actually, it's been about 6 months since we've all sat on this couch together. And unfortunately, we started doing a program that was supposed to last 15 weeks. I went back to school in the fall, ironically. Paulie got caught up in hockey coaching, and Scott got busy as well. So we haven't really had the time to connect.
I blew up my knees.
Yeah, we'll talk about what we've been doing afterwards. But right now, I just want to say that you can always reach us, and we're always here to do our best. As we've said many times before, we are not professionals in the mental health field. We're just a couple of guys, three of us that have been each through our own unique journey, which involves anxiety, depression. Suicide has touched all of us in one way, shape, or form. And mental illness. And I, for one, believe that, especially now after doing a bunch of reading over the last 6 months, I believe that there is absolutely no one that does not suffer from mental illness. I think that people say, oh, it's five every 1 in 5, and then it's 1 in 4, and then it's 1 in 3. Yeah. It keeps getting lower and lower. But to be completely honest, I think that it's just a scale of sort of a degree of what, how...
It depends on what time of your life when it comes out more and more.
Absolutely. 100%. But I don't think unless you are an enlightened Buddha, then you're sick, and that you're mentally sick at times. I'm not saying all the time, but just look at common cold. It can come and it can get, it can get you for a while. So over the last 6 months, we've been responding to a lot of the stuff that you haven't seen behind the scenes, which has been meeting with coffee for people that aren't feeling well, responding to definitely to people that are struggling and going back and forth. And this is one of the beautiful things about social media, is being able to connect with someone never having seen a face.
Yeah.
Of course, I think we all agree that we love to have face-to-face time with each and every person that reaches out to us. But if that's what you need and it's easier by email or by message, then by all means do that. But anyway, let's talk about sort of what's gone on in the last 6 months, and we'll bring you up to speed. So I guess I'll tell my story and then we'll jump over. So in September, for those of you that don't know, we started doing a program way back in the spring following Lucinda Bassett's Attacking Anxiety and Depression. And we still have 2 more weeks of that to finish before we jump into the actual season 2 of this podcast. But in September, we thought, okay, we'll throw those in at some point in time. However, I decided to go back to Fanshawe to try to make this podcast bigger and better. And then there was a strike. So if you know me, I'm a big kind of sign of the, things from the universe and signs from the universe. And at that exact same time, reporters from the Huffington Post started reaching out and wanting to do an article on the podcast. And I kind of thought, you know what, maybe I should be focusing the time back on trying to build this. So I took the full refund, no longer go to Fanshawe. I am registered for the fall, but I don't know if I'll go back. And we started building a new machine to better the podcast, a big computer, multiple camera angles, and we're actually putting in a studio a few rooms behind me here. And of course, with an increase and an upgrade comes, more additional finances, more problems that you run into. So it is taking us a little bit of time to get to the place where we can actually do that. And in January, I went through a bout of depression, and I was pretty open and honest about it on my personal Facebook page. So as much as we kind of go through the tools that you can use, and we talk about our own experience and being gentlemen that have gone through it, still affects us. We're still human. And the one thing that I wish I had done was reach out more to this community, because I kind of feel like we're putting ourselves out there, but you guys are so great as well, and there's so many supportive people that we could have just, in any time of our need for each of us, because I know that we've all had a bit of a tough time this winter, we could have reached out to people and said that, and that's where I wish I could go back in time and just be open and honest and actually do a podcast when I was in depression, and talk to people about that. However,
that's part of depression.
That's part of depression. You don't,
Isolation.
absolutely, and it's so much easier to talk about depression and anxiety when you're not in it. That's
the truth.
That's one thing, and I honestly think I needed to go through it again after starting this podcast to realize that even though we're telling all of you to reach out when you're in your time of need, it's fucking hard. It's easier said than done. Yeah, well, you do what you can, right? But depression and anxiety and things that knock you down, they're funny things. I don't think anyone fully understands them as much as they think they do. So that's kind of been the last 6 months for me. We're going to continue to build the studio. The next couple Sundays we're going to be here. We're going to focus on finishing what we started. Life's kind of like that. So is anxiety. You start something and then you get sidetracked and then you try to come back to it, right? So we're going to finish what we started. We haven't left you guys. We're still here. And I know these guys have had some really incredible experiences over the last 6 months, but I'm going to leave it up to them to share what they see fit and if it applies. So how about you, buddy?
How much time do we got?
We got enough.
Yeah.
We got enough.
Since September, I think I could be honest and say I've been on a roller coaster, for sure. There's been lots of ups and downs. I submerged myself with a hockey team, for sure, and I put all my eggs in that basket. It was pretty stressful. It was the youngest team I'd ever coached, and they weren't too... Definitely just not at an age group where I was used to. And so they're younger, and I'm used to coaching older guys who know fundamentals of hockey. And at one point, I think in early November, I didn't like going to the rink anymore. And if anyone knows me, I'm all about when I'm at the rink, nothing else matters. And it's
your passion.
It's my passion. It's my place. And so when I felt this in November that I don't even want to show up to the rink, and I was just going through the motions, and I realized that I was struggling with depression, and that I'm trying not to beat myself up over it. I know that I'm a person that lives with depression, and it's not just going to go away because I, do some things, but I'm always going to have it, and it has no schedule for me. It's on its own kind of ride, and I have to accept it when it's here, and be grateful when it's not here. And so I struggled all through the Christmas season. I struggled being in a long distance relationship that really sucked for me because I met a fantastic girl that doesn't live in my town, and she supported me through everything. And it's tough to live in a city, and I'm dependable on public transit, and it's tough having a long distance relationship when you don't have a car. That was a tough thing. So I had a strained relationship, and in January I decided to, and I may kick myself for it again in life, I don't know, I decided to walk away from my hockey team and just try to focus on myself. I ended up in the hospital for a few days. I engaged in some self-harm practices that aren't healthy at all, and I'm not scared to tell you that or tell these people that.
We appreciate it.
That it wasn't a fun time, and I didn't tell anyone except my therapist and my doctor at the hospital. And I told my girlfriend, and I told my best friend, and they all said just if that's where you need to be, then that's where you need to be. And I isolated, and so I didn't have a great winter. And that generally happens that I don't have a great winter. I have some really cool things coming up.
Good.
I'm back, booking presentations. I didn't speak because I just didn't want to put myself out there. I, was in a pity party for myself, basically, and it took me to reach out to someone to stop that, basically. I think I've done that.
It's easy when you're in that downward spiral.
For sure. I think I'm coming out of it. I'm definitely not out of it. I have some big opportunities coming up. I just had a job interview on Friday, which I'm pretty pumped for, and it went really well. So I hope
be
that
grateful. Like,
it
it's like you just
really
gotta be
is,
grateful
yeah.
for the little things
And I think that that's what I was doing was I got to a point where I was thinking that these things were bigger than me. That at hockey, I thought, if we don't make a provincial championship, like I don't want to coach this team. But that's my mindset of, we won it all last year.
We have
And
to win again.
we have to win again. Like there's no way that's knocking me off the top. When it comes to hockey,
Yeah.
I think if I won a Stanley Cup, like
That wouldn't be good enough.
it still wouldn't be good enough. Olympic medal still wouldn't be good enough. Like it's always.
What's the best?
I've always said like I'm never satisfied with past performance, and that's what makes me do better things.
Right.
Like I just keep going. I'm not satisfied with what I've done because I think I can always be better, and I'm not perfect.
It also makes you hard on yourself.
It makes me incredibly hard on myself, and I think
We're the worst. We're our own worst critics.
in this whole, I guess in this whole life journey, right? I'm my worst critic. I try not to put it outward how I feel, and so when I, engage in self-harm, I'm doing that because I don't like who I am in that moment, and I'm just trying to find some self-love and get back to walking a lot and get back to playing lots of guitar and doing some other things and getting out.
Yeah.
I mean, my biggest regret is not reaching out enough.
Yeah.
But
I felt like that too. Like I kind of felt like you're just we're here.
Oh yeah.
But you just didn't want to.
You didn't want to.
You didn't want to at all.
If you check in with me, and I'd be like, "Fuck off." Sean.
Yeah, I know.
I want to be by myself. But then, in the same sense, be like, "Fuck! I wish someone would like call me."
Yeah, I know. It's
I
so
wish they
weird.
just knew.
Yeah.
And then you see them.
I was so lonely, but as soon as your phone and some text comes in, fuck you.
Fuck you.
Yeah, right?
And it wasn't because I was like, "Fuck you, Sean."
No, I
It's
know,
'cause
I
was
know.
like, I want to be stuck in here with my lights off. I made it out of my bed. That's all I need. But I'm in my underwear, sitting on my couch with the lights off and no TV, nothing on.
But we must get something out of depression because, we know all the things to get out of it. It's like...
Right. It's almost that we're conditioned that way, though.
Yeah.
When we're in those depressive modes, we almost have to let the depression just do its thing. Like Lucinda Best said.
We're waiting to be saved or something.
Right.
Like we want someone to the attention or be like, I don't know.
We gotta feel
just
fear
wanna
and do it anyways.
Yeah.
Like Lucinda Bassett says, feel that. Sometimes I spend too much time feeling it.
Yeah.
And I give it way too much weight. I give way too much weight in my life, and I don't look at the positive side of things.
It's one of those things where we went through this...
Gratefulness, right?
Yeah, but we went through a full 13 weeks of actually talking about what we need to do.
Yeah. And I've implemented those practices in my life for sure. It's just...
It still doesn't defeat it completely. It's still...
And I don't think because there is no cure for depression.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that there is no cure for anxiety. There's no cure for post-traumatic stress. If someone would... I'll tell you right now, if someone could shut my brain off, because I haven't slept for 3 weeks.
Really?
Oh, it's brutal. Brutal. Like this morning, 5:30. Bing! Wide awake after tossing and turning all night. It's because my brain doesn't want to shut off. And I listen to the shit.
It couldn't be the rock stars, though.
It might be the rock stars. It might be. I've stopped
4,000 milligrams of caffeine.
I've stopped taking rock stars after 5 o'clock.
That's a good step,
It's
though,
a good
right?
start,
It's a good start.
Because I would crank them at 10 o'clock at night and then be like,
that's-
I'm going to bed now.
Yeah, that's probably not healthy.
6-hour half-life of caffeine.
Yeah. So that's my 6 months.
That's your 6 month. Well,
Been a tough go.
Thanks for sharing, buddy.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're with us, and I'm glad that you had the insight to check yourself in, because you did check yourself in, right? Was it suicidal thoughts? Or?
For sure.
So can you share us what that felt like? Or if you don't have to, if you don't want to.
It wasn't. I can tell you right now, it wasn't that I wanted to die.
It wasn't that you wanted to die.
No, I just wanted the shit to end. I wanted the chaos in my head to end and the stress I was putting on myself to end. And then what comes with that is suicidal ideation, which I hate. I hate that that's something that my brain does. And so I beat myself up for hating that. And then it just manifests itself into a plan. As soon as I had a plan, I knew that I needed to get to the hospital pretty well.
Good for you, man.
Right away. And
well, thanks for sticking with us, man. We love you.
No one's perfect, and I'm only human, right? I'm
I'm
not a guru. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a human being with an experience, right? And I'm still living my experience, still going through my journey.
But everything that you've gone through has led to someone watching this right now could be saying, they have a plan and they don't know what to do. Well, check yourself into the hospital, right? You can listen to Paulie.
Do it right now. I just saw a thing on Facebook on my memories. 7 years ago on Sunday, I moved out of my car.
Wow.
And I thought, I moved out of my car and I've just stayed in an apartment for 2 years and I paid the rent?
That's amazing.
It's a big.
Like,
You gotta celebrate.
That's fucking bonkers to me,
Yeah.
Like, that I was able to stay in a place, not get evicted. The sheriff didn't come to my house. The cops never came to my house one time.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing.
That's
you know?
awesome,
Like,
buddy.
That's a first.
Yeah.
That is a first for me that the cops haven't come to my house and I was able to pay rent for 2 years.
So you can say that it does.
That it's possible, right? That it's
Be
possible.
grateful for that. And,
Oh, yeah.
Celebrate the small victories.
Those are the
right?
things that I have to be grateful for and not the stress that's going on in my life, right? Is that I gotta use those little victories and they're big victories ultimately, I hated living in my fucking car.
I
It's a little
bet.
Honda, 92 Honda Accord. Like,
Yeah.
not a lot of leg room,
And in that situation,
2-door or 4-door.
There's a 4-door.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you got a little bit more. You get like Hightower and just
I just
seat
put
in
the
back.
seat back. I
Yeah.
just put the seat back. That's how I slept.
be grateful you had a 4-door, not a 2-door.
Not a
Just
2-door,
kidding.
yeah.
Little things.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is like in those moments, though, it's hard to find gratitude, right?
It is.
Oh, it's incredibly hard.
And I know we preach about just like it's hard to be depressed or be anxious when you're grateful for things, but sometimes that takes all the energy out of you even just to think about what you're grateful for. And
Well,
now
I figured, I got out of bed, and that was always my big thing.
Get out of bed and go to the couch.
I gotta get out of bed. I just can't lay in my bed. But I gotta do more than just get out of the couch then, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I've gone step 1, I've got out of the bed. Step 2, I gotta get off the couch.
Yeah.
Step 3, I gotta go outside, have some human interaction, right?
Yeah.
Human interaction is key.
is.
For
it really is.
like 3 weeks, my only human interaction was the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, that's not healthy.
But at least it was interaction. At least it's there.
For
right?
sure,
Yeah.
but it was like one time over 3 weeks. Before that, it was like, no, I'm not talking to fucking anyone.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to see how hurt I am.
No, I get that. Man.
You know?
Yeah. It's almost like, and being a man, we talk about this, and Scott, we'll get to you soon too, buddy. But you talk more than anyone about the shield, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we all carry that, like we don't want anyone to see.
How vulnerable we are.
We really are, and we went to that talk last week, and we know that men succeed at suicide. What was it, 70 or 80%
More than women.
Yeah.
They attempt it more, but men succeed more.
Yeah. So
Which
I
is
mean,
a crazy stat.
absolutely. And let's talk about Scotty's 6 months, because everybody's dying. Save the best for last.
Yeah.
Well, not really, but I mean, we're all talking about the shit that we've gone through. So Scotty went through.
something.
Scotty went through a bit of an ordeal. Why don't you share it with everyone?
So yeah, I guess the last 6 months, one, I moved, and that's how I hurt my one knee, was moving all the stuff in my house. So waiting for an MRI here in London took forever, so I overcompensated on this leg, and then landed up slipping a couple times. And then the last time that I slipped, I landed up rupturing my quadricep tendon, and it recoiled up to here.
Oh my god.
So I had to have reconstructive surgery on this guy. So I've got a nice scar from here to here. And then this knee, they scoped and cleaned out my meniscus. That's what I had damaged in it. And then have partial tears in my quad tendon in that one.
So how are you doing now, bud?
So that's been after Christmas, I've been in pain and not being able to walk around. I've been able to settle into my new house.
But
Everything that I wanted to do has not been I haven't been able to do it this winter.
But what happened where this is the time when you had to be vulnerable?
Yeah.
And what was it that happened where you had to actually say, okay, I'm not just going to sleep this off, I'm going to call 911?
Well, of course, the ego comes in.
Yeah, this is what we're talking
You don't want
about
help,
here. Yeah.
and whatever. And I mean, this knee was bad for a long time, and I should have, back in October, I should have went to the hospital that time, because it was swollen. I couldn't walk, I couldn't work, and I'm just they're just going to send me home. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'll just, it'll get better.
Yeah,
And then
right.
I just kept walking it off, and finally went, because I couldn't walk or stand anymore. So I finally went, but yeah, it's ego, right? And then so finally this one, I couldn't stand. I fell, and I saw my tendon go up, and I'm lying on the ground.
Right, but there was
the stairs.
You had it operated on, and then what happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had it operated on. Well, I went to the hospital after I fell, and my friends took me there to emerge, and you know, I was in excruciating amount of pain. They held me there for like 8 to 10 hours. They wanted to do surgery, and then they were going to send me home. And then they came back and were like, no, we want to do surgery. And then I denied them because I was so much anxiety about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, who's going to look after my cats? Like, I couldn't handle it, like, whatever. So I refused treatment.
Okay.
And went home. And plus I was going to see the other surgeon the next week for this knee. So I'm like, might as well have him do both.
Okay.
So I went home for a week, you know, like with a brace, not being able to walk. My new house has 3 levels of stairs in it, right? So just horrible. So then I had surgery finally the next week. Went home, and then I was bad, and I didn't follow up with like my pain meds and all that kind of stuff. I got home, and my leg, I thought, was starting to swell, and I thought I had ruptured something in there. And the pain is like, you can't describe bone pain. So I finally called 911 and had to be taken out to the hospital in an ambulance, and the fire department was called because I was too heavy for the EMS guys to lift me down the stairs.
I would have loved to see that.
It was so embarrassing.
2 EMS
So
guys show
embarrassing.
up and be like,
Well, it was a girl and a guy, a little
right.
one, and then they're like, oh, we got to call the fire department for the lift. So I got called, like, I know a couple of the guys, and I'm like,
way.
sitting there in my friggin' underwear and t-shirt, and like just had surgery, you know, like
Poor guy.
brutal. So then I went back out. My dad came, my sister, and like that's when, you know, like reach out to family. You know, I hadn't reached out to them in a long time, and it, you know, it was just the universe's way of telling me I had to slow down and I got to take care of myself, and I got to start saying no to other people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because
how was your mindset through all of this? Like, obviously, you said you got a lot of anxiety and you didn't even want to go through the surgery. Was that?
No, I thought it would fix itself eventually, or I could fix it.
That's ego, though, you know? Like,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
that, especially as an athlete, you know? You're like, oh, I'll be fine. I
Well,
got this.
Like, to be honest, like when I was going in for surgery, part of my mindset was I was hoping I wasn't going to wake up from it.
Really?
Yeah, eh?
Yeah, because my life has been fucking just a trial after trial for the last 10 years, and it's hard to keep going.
Yeah.
And part of
I
me
bet you
said
did.
that. I'm just like, I'd be happy if I never wake up from the surgeries. I don't want to deal with the shit in my life anymore.
I can understand that completely.
We're glad you're here, buddy.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks.
Well,
Well, that's when I reach out to you and text you, like, on my way out there and stuff. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just, it's
not
hard.
easy,
Sometimes
man.
you just, it's easy just to give up.
It is. I know, and it's.
Ain't that the truth?
So
We have to start helping each other with obstacles, because obstacles are never going to vanish from our lives.
Yeah.
And I always like to think that the universe won't throw anything more at you than you can handle, but.
when something goes good, it's just like bang. It's
Well,
like
every
another
obstacle,
trial, right?
yeah, every obstacle you overcome, it's just going to be another one and another one. And if you look at life that way, without making it a game or without having some kind of fun and enjoyment out of it, what's the fucking point, right? And then it's just like, and I think that's the way that some of these youngsters feel. I mean, when you're in university and college and you're under all that pressure and you feel like you fucked it all up and your life looked like this and now it's like this.
Buckle up, because it's not, it's not how you're going to plan it.
No.
If you have a plan, toss it out.
Well, I think it's good to have.
You can have a guidebook of where you want to go.
Sure. I think it's good to have, like, as long as you're okay with not going to a
Just
straight
real,
line.
yeah.
It's not going to be a
Change is
straight
inevitable.
line. It's
Yeah.
never going to be a straight line. It's always going to be a winding road.
But here's the other thing with me, like, I'm an addict, and I've been, you know, I've struggled with opiates my whole life, so now I'm going into surgery. What do you think they're prescribing you?
Opiates.
So that's a fucking scary thing for me
Yeah,
and my
for
family.
sure.
Right?
So did you end up taking the painkillers?
I had to because the pain was so bad.
So how
But-
have you been handling it after? Like, is someone watching?
Well, I told, like, you know, obviously if you go to rehab, they tell you, like, you got to be upfront with the doctors and the nurses, and I told them, and some of them didn't even know how to, like,
Address
it or handle it or whatever, and so they're trying to manage my pain after, and, like, because you've told them that, one, they don't want to give you a lot,
Right.
so, like, they didn't know how to manage it, so I was kept in the hospital for overnight or 2 days or something. Or I
But
don't
your
know.
size too is fucking
Yeah,
hard to
so-
tell.
And, like, because I've used so much of them in the past, my tolerance is through the
Through
roof.
the roof,
yeah.
So, like, I can take a shit ton of them
And
and
not-
still not feel
yeah.
anything, right? So
Fuck.
it was really tough. So, yes, I was prescribed them. I gave them to my dad. I went back to my parents' house to recover.
Good for
and
you.
like you give them to them, and like they were strong enough to like leave them in my care, and like but they watched and they were concerned, and like it was. I know it was tough for my dad and the concern for them to watch. And
Absolutely,
stuff.
yeah.
It's like it's a huge.
Yeah, well,
I could have easily just went down the wrong road and and call up some people and get them within like
right,
a day, right?
Yeah. Good
But
for
so I
you,
did,
man.
and
Fuck.
like I
I
used
didn't
them
really think
for a week, and then I went back, and I haven't been on anything since.
Hey, buddy.
And
Shake
it's
your
been
hand
hard
for that,
because
man.
it's fucking painful.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
That takes a strong mind, man. Good
and
for
I don't
you.
want to use them. Like I didn't want to use them after the surgery, and I wish like I didn't have to. But bone pain is
You have
the
to.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Yeah.
when it comes to, we have to. If a doctor prescribed you like Cipralex for depression, you take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's your physical health too. We got to think physical health, emotional health, mental health. It's all
Yeah.
equal. Even our physical health, when we're in pain, we can't use it as like a crutch.
Mhm.
Ultimately, like there's a lot of people that use opiates that aren't in pain.
No, I know.
And
that I did for
Well, not
years,
not
right?
physical pain.
Not physical
maybe
pain,
emotional.
Well, they
Maybe
use it to
emotional.
mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it's been
Obviously,
very
that's a
tough
different
and scary.
circumstance. Like you've
Yeah.
got your leg shredded open.
But how like it's easily I could play the victim and
For
be
sure.
like, my leg's
Absolutely.
killing me tonight. Like,
Yeah.
call up some people.
You betcha.
Easily.
You betcha.
Like, I'm past that in my life. Like, I don't.
Good for you.
I think what the universe is trying to say is that we're better all together. We should not fucking give up again.
No.
And is there anything else you guys want to share tonight? Because we went through the suicides, and I have, I think, a solution. Not a solution, but something that I think we should try for that. But is there anything personally you want to share? Any messages you want to give that you've learned over the last 6 months?
Use those crisis lines. They're gonna save your life.
Well, just reach out to anybody. Reach out to a friend, a
Yeah.
family, us. It's never the answer. Like there's always hope. There's always whatever.
Okay.
I should say that myself, but it's true. And like I'm just glad that we're back doing this every Sunday. I missed it, and I just want to help and know that there's there's help out there.
Okay. I think the other thing I want to say, are we still rolling? Okay. I think the other thing I want to say is to everyone at Western, I feel like we sit back and we try to do as much as we can through social media and through podcasting. I think it's time we actually took action here. And I was thinking about just going back to basics, and when I kind of got on that whole little tangent about technology increasing and how much simpler times were, I think by going back and doing things the way that we once did, something as simple as a hug, and showing love and compassion to people that truly need it right now, would be a good way to start.
Empathy,
Yeah, and
helps cure depression.
sure. And I think that
It is.
I think that what we need to do is maybe go and hang outside UCC, which is the Student Community Center, right? Or University Community Center. Yeah, and we're just gonna. Well, I think it's best that we get feedback from the students as to what we can do here to kind of help instead of just looking from the outside in. So I think we go there and we hold up some old-fashioned signs that say "free hugs," and just see what students come and want to ask what it's about, and we'll give out the sex and suicide card. And we'll pick a day this week. What week works for you guys?
It scares some people away.
Maybe, but we gotta do something. We gotta do something. Like, I feel like even so even when you're as depressed as you can possibly be, you need
human interaction. Like you can't isolate yourself.
But you need to feel value too. Like and you're so much more valuable than you give yourself credit for. Like even just going down the street and just flashing a smile at someone can make all the difference in their life. Yeah. So I figure, let's just be simple. Let's just go give some hugs. What day works for you guys? Let's do this.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm a one day at a time guy.
We'll get back to you, but maybe this week we'll pick a day and we'll try that.
I'll pick you up.
And then maybe next week we'll do fan shot. And I just feel like when it comes to mental health right now, even though we're changing seasons, which is great. Seasonal affective disorder is kind of lightening.
We put our clocks back next week, and I cannot wait.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm counting down.
Perfect.
We're losing our sleep. Oh no. I don't sleep. So
It doesn't matter. Welcome to my life. I haven't slept in 20 years.
It's 20 years.
The other thing I wanted to just tell everyone is we are going to finish the program that we started.
Yeah.
So next week we're going to start back on, if you've been following us with Lucinda Bassett, we're either on week 13 or 14. I think it's 14, isn't it? I'll check, but
Just do it again.
well, do the whole program again. Well, we can catch up. We can. The nice thing about online is you can always go back and rewatch the podcast if you don't know what we're talking about. But next week we'll try to get into doing that again and focusing on some more coping techniques. And we'll also maybe we'll be able to bring an iPad and go live from when we do our little free hugs thing.
Yeah.
And we'll just something off the top of my head. We'll figure something out, but. We need to start taking some action here too, other than just sitting on this couch and talking. And if you have solutions, fuck everybody's so fucking quick to point out problems now. Like this. Okay, let's start talking about solutions and let's start coming together and making an effort to actually create change. And I think it just starts with one small movement here, one small movement there. So any suggestions you want to throw our way, by all means, we're here to listen. Again, if you are listening on iTunes or you have found us through another social media channel, our biggest and best way to be reached is through Facebook, and eventually we will start building a web page, and that's all part of the grand plan here. But we'll finish this off the old school style on the couch, 3 guys on the couch, in the next couple weeks, and then we'll jump into season 2 where I've got a bunch of surprises for you guys. We have Skype capability now, so we're not just in London, Ontario. We're going to have guests from all over the place, and that's going to be really exciting. So that might take a little bit longer to get going, but for now, 3 guys on a couch coming at you. All right? Good to see you too. Speaking with those hugs, let's start with them now. All right, perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.